We had no power for a long time.
Yeah, I remember you saying you made like a heating room, right?
Yeah, we had to, but we didn't think of that really until like the next day. You know, plus we couldn't really sleep in the kitchen, so.
Yeah.
Hey deputies, does everybody speak English? Do we know?
Mr. Salinas speaks Spanish.
Okay, very well. And then on those MOAPs, I'm going to need Mr. Pipkin back, I think, for order of emergency protection. But that's, okay, here we go. All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Lionel Castro. I'm a Harris County Criminal Law Hearing Officer. All of you are here at the 7 a.m. docket on February 22nd because you've been charged with an offense under the laws of the state of Texas.
Todos están aquí en la audiencia de las 7 de la mañana, el 22 de febrero de 2021, porque están acusados de cometer una ofensa en el condado here.
This means that you do have certain rights.
¿Qué quiere decir? Que tiene ciertos derechos.
You have the right to hire an attorney.
Tienes derecho de emplear abogados.
If you can't afford one, you have the right to ask the judge in your court to appoint one for you.
Si usted no puede emplear uno, tiene derecho de pedir que la corte le asigne uno.
If you're being interviewed by the police or a prosecutor, you have the right to have your lawyer with you.
Si también se dice por la Policía Fiscal del Estado, tiene el derecho de tener el abogado presente.
And the right to terminate that interview at any time.
Y el derecho de terminar el servicio a cualquier tiempo.
You have the right to remain silent.
Tiene el derecho de mantenerse silencio.
You're not required to say anything at all about your case.
No está requerido hacer una declaración de su casa.
You should know that anything you do say could and probably would be used against you at trial. I don't believe anyone here is charged with a felony. All right, each of you has the right this morning to the assistance at this hearing of Attorney Chris Henderson from the Public Defender's Office.
Yeah, so the top right is
Please answer out nice and loud so I can hear. Do all of you understand your rights? All right, very well. So the procedure we're going to follow goes like this. When I call your name, I'm going to ask you to stand up right where you are. I'll tell you what you're charged with. I'll tell you the judge and the court where your case is going to be assigned. I'll ask you whether you're going to need a court-appointed lawyer. I'll ask whether you'd like the help this morning of Mr. Henderson from the Public Defender's Office. And then we'll have a short hearing to determine the amount of your bond. Some of you this morning may be eligible for a personal bond. That means you won't need to pay any money to get out of jail. However, if you're not granted a personal bond, I will set a dollar amount as the amount of the surety bond in your case. When I'm trying to decide the amount of that surety bond, I'm going to consider several things, including the nature of the offense that you're charged with, any relevant history you may have of past convictions or failures to come to court, any information about yourself that you gave to the people at pretrial services during your interview, or that's presented on your behalf at this hearing by Mr. Henderson. The local practices and rules of the Harris County Criminal Courts, and I'll follow the laws as set out in chapters 15 and 17 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. If you tell me that you're going to need a court-appointed attorney, I'll forward that request to the judge in the court where your case is assigned. When you get to that court, you're still going to need to fill out a written request for a court-appointed attorney,
Cuando llegue a la corte va a tener que llenar una petición prescrita para el abogado
and a sworn statement telling that judge how much money you bring in each month,
y una declaración bajo juramento diciendo al juez cuánto gana mensualmente,
how much you must spend in necessary expenses like rent or child support,
cuánto tiene que gastar en gastos necesarios como renta o mantenimiento de hijos,
and whether you have any assets that could be used to pay for a lawyer.
y si tiene ahorros por cuál puede usar para ser abogado.
The judge in your court is going to look at that information and decide whether you can afford to hire your own attorney.
El juez va a ver la información y va a ver si usted tiene dinero para ser abogado.
If the judge decides that you cannot afford to hire your own lawyer,
Y el juez decide que no puede interferir a su abogado,
the judge will appoint an attorney to represent you.
el juez va a asignar un abogado que lo represente.
And you're going to meet that attorney most likely at your very first court setting.
Y va a contarse con él la primera vez que va a corte.
If you are here for a misdemeanor charge,
Si está acusado de un delito menor,
the purpose of the bond hearing on the misdemeanor charge
el propósito de la audiencia para el delito menor,
is to establish the least restrictive conditions of bond I can set for you
para darle las condiciones menos restrictivas que pueda darle de fianza,
that will assure your return to court and that you're not going to be a threat to public safety.
que van a garantizar que usted va a regresar a corte y no va a ser amenaza al público.
This means that if I believe I have some adequate non-financial bond conditions that you would follow and obey,
Eso quiere decir que si él cree que él tiene condiciones adecuadas que usted va a obedecer
to keep yourself coming back to court and keep yourself from being a safety threat,
para que usted regrese a corte y no sea amenaza al público,
then I cannot simply set your bond so high that you can't afford to pay it.
no le puede fijar la fianza tan alta que no la pueda pagar.
On the other hand, if I believe, based on clear and convincing evidence in front of me,
Pero si tiene evidencia clara delante de él,
that you would not follow or obey my non-financial bond conditions,
enseñando que no regresaría a corte y no va a cumplir con las condiciones que ponga,
then I can set your bond at a level that may be higher than what you can currently afford.
sí que puede fijar la fianza más alta de lo que pueda pagar.
If that does happen to you, you will appear in front of your misdemeanor court judge tomorrow morning.
Si eso pasa, va a ir delante del juez mañana en la mañana,
You can ask that judge to review my bond decision,
le puede pedir al juez que revise su decisión de fianza,
grant you a personal bond,
de fianza personal,
or make any other changes to bond conditions that I may have set for you.
o hacer cambios a las condiciones de fianza que ha puesto él hoy.
You do have federal rights at issue during your misdemeanor bond hearing.
Tienes derechos federales durante esta audiencia,
These include the right to pretrial liberty on a misdemeanor charge,
tienes el derecho a libertad o fianza personal por un delito menor,
as well as the right not to be kept in jail on a misdemeanor charge,
y también el derecho de que no lo detengan aquí por un delito menor,
simply and solely because you could not afford to pay a misdemeanor bond.
simplemente y solamente porque no puede pagar la fianza.
All right, so let's go ahead and take the interpreter case first. Here. Eric Perez?
It's Mr. Salinas.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Salinas.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Mr. Salinas. I apologize, Mr. Perez. Juan Salinas? Good morning, Mr. Salinas.
Buenos días. Señor, usted no habla inglés, ¿verdad? Okay.
All right, we're good. So you're charged with a Class A misdemeanor of assault on a family member.
Está acusado de un delito menor clase A, de agregar a un miembro de la familia.
Probable cause for this case has been found.
Ya determinaron caso para hablar su caso.
It's going to go to County Criminal Court 6.
Ella la Corte Criminal número 6.
That's Judge Kelly Andrews.
A ver, ahora pues, Kelly Andrews.
Will you need a court-appointed lawyer from Judge Andrews?
¿Va a necesitar abogado de la corte, señor? Okay, he's gonna hire.
All right. Would you like the help at this hearing of attorney Chris Henderson from the Public Defender's Office?
¿Quiere que hoy en esta audiencia le ayude el defensor público, el señor Henderson? Okay, yes, sir. Yes, please.
All right, very well. Mr. Bear, what's the state's request on bond, please, for Mr. Salinas on the assault family member charge?
Your Honor, the state is requesting a $10,000 bond or against the PR bond pursuant to GA 13, case involving physical violence. We're also requesting a MOEP, no contact with a complaining witness, no weapons, no alcohol, no drugs, and an electronic monitor.
El Estado pide fianza de 10,000 y que se niegue la fianza personal, Pide que usted no pueda tener armas de fuego, no puede usar drogas o alcohol y que se tenga que poner un GPS, que es un monitor.
All right. Very well. Any further?
Your Honor, were you also addressing the DWI case?
No. It looks like you got a GOB on that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Uh-huh. Mr. Henderson.
Judge, I'm objecting to GA13 under the grounds that it's unconstitutional.
Él se opone a la orden ejecutiva 13 porque dice que es contra la Constitución.
I'm requesting a $5,000 personal bond on the assault.
Pide fianza de $5,000 con fianza personal.
Mr. Salinas has strong ties to Houston and isn't going to be going anywhere else. He's lived in Houston for over 20 years.
Dice que tiene ligas a la comunidad, que usted no va a ir a otro lugar, que usted ha estado aquí 20 años.
Mr. Salinas has family in Houston. He's going to go stay with his mother to abide by any protective order that's issued on his address.
Dice que tiene familia aquí, se va a ir a quedar con su madre porque va a haber una orden de protección.
Mr. Salinas does not have an extensive criminal history. He has no violent convictions in the past.
Dice que no tiene convicciones, agresión o violencia en el pasado.
Mr. Salinas, however, is going through a period of unemployment and it does not receive any government assistance.
Dice que ahorita no tiene empleo y no recibe asistencia del gobierno.
One of the reasons I'm requesting a personal bond, he doesn't have any money for bail.
Pide la fianza personal porque usted no tiene dinero para pagar la fianza.
He has 5 kids in Houston. Their ages are 17, 12, 9, 8, and 3.
Tiene 5 hijos aquí en Houston de edad de 3 a 19 años.
He used to provide for them with his job in roofing. He was in roofing for over 10 years.
Usted trabajó poniendo techos por más de 10 años.
Naturally, finances are stretched at the moment with his unemployment situation because of COVID.
Pero ahorita por el virus usted no ha podido trabajar.
He can be expected to be turning up to court on a personal bond. He's going to take public transport to make his appearances.
Dice que usted regresará a la corte, que va a tomar el transporte público para venir.
All right. I do see that he's got a 2015 ICE issue. Do we know if that's been taken care of? Or if he has any current ICE issues?
I don't believe he should have any ICE issues. I think he's a permanent resident.
All right, very well. Mr. Salinas, I'm going to set your bond in this case in the amount of $5,000.
Le va a fijar la fianza del juez en $5,000.
I will approve you for a personal bond.
Le va a aprobar la fianza personal para que salga sin pagar.
However, there are going to be a number of conditions on that bond.
Pero va a haber varias condiciones en esa fianza.
You must make certain that you get yourself to court on time every time Judge Andrews tells you to be there.
Tiene que ir a corte y llegar a tiempo cada vez que le diga a la juez que vaya a corte.
Don't be late, don't miss court, or the judge is going to raise that bond or revoke it.
No llegue tarde, no falte a la corte, o la juez va a aumentar la fianza o se la va a revocar.
And issue a warrant for your arrest.
Y se hará una orden para su arresto.
Number 2, don't pick up any new cases while you're out on bond.
No levante casos nuevos como esté fuera en fianza.
That means no new cases of any kind,
Delitos de ninguna clase,
but especially no cases involving any kind of violence, threats, or aggressive behavior.
pero especialmente que tengan que ver con agresión o que tengan que ver con violencia.
And definitely no cases involving Ms. Cristina Gonzalez Bernal.
Ningún caso contra Cristina González Bernal.
Third, I'm going to issue an order of emergency protection.
Va a haber una orden de emergencia protectiva
It's going to require you to keep away from that address where Ms. Bernal is staying.
y va a requerir que usted no se acerque a la residencia donde vive la señora Bernal.
I'm also going to issue a separate order
Y va a haber una orden separada
requiring that you may not use or consume any illegal drugs or alcohol while on bond.
y cuando estén fuera no pueden consumir drogas legales o alcohol.
And you may not use or possess any firearms or other weapons.
No puede tener posesión de armas de fuego o de armas.
Sir, are you a United States citizen?
Señor, ¿es ciudadano americano?
What country are you a citizen of?
¿De qué país es usted? México.
Would you like for us to notify the Mexican consulate that you've been charged with this offense?
¿Quiere que avisen al consulado mexicano de esta ofensa, sí o no? No.
All right, very well. Have a seat for right now, please. I'll bring you back up at the end of docket to talk about the order of protection. Guys, I'm gonna need my mow-ups pretty quick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Eric Perez? Good morning, Mr. Perez. Sir, you've got two charges on the docket. One is a Class A misdemeanor of carrying a handgun in a motor vehicle. The other is a Class B misdemeanor of driving while intoxicated. Both of these cases are going to go to Court 13. That's going to be Judge Raul Rodriguez. Will you need a court-appointed attorney from Judge Rodriguez? Would you like the help this morning of attorney Chris Henderson from the Public Defender's Office? Mr. Baer, what's the state's request on bond, please, for Mr. Eric Perez?
Your Honor, the state is requesting a $5,000 bond on each case. We're opposed to a PR bond. We're also requesting ignition interlock, no weapons, no alcohol, no drugs.
All right, Mr. Henderson?
Judge, I'm requesting a $500 personal bond with DWI and a $1,000 personal bond on the carrying a handgun in a motor vehicle charge. Mr. Perez has strong ties to the Houston community. He's lived in Houston his whole life and he's 20 years old. He lives with family in Houston also, which speaks to his community ties. He lives with his grandparents at a home that they share. He supports his grandparents financially also, contributes to the household. He has been working part-time as an audio-visual technician for over 4 years. He speaks to his community ties that he's been doing that work for that long. He brings about $1,200 a month in that work. Prior to that, he worked at a Pizza Hut for over 8 years in Houston. He is currently taking classes at the moment at Houston Community College, which speaks to the fact that he won't be going anywhere else and he could be expected to turn up the court. He's taking welding classes at HCC. He has his own vehicle which he can use to make his court appearances with an ignition in the lock, Judge. So I'm requesting a $1,000 personal bond.
All right, very well. Thank you. Mr. Baer, do you have any information regarding how much marijuana was recovered from inside the backpack?
I'm sorry, say what now?
No, I was talking to the lawyer.
Oh,
Your Honor, I don't see that in any of the reports I have.
Gotcha, okay. All right. So, Mr. Perez, here's the issue. You're on deferred adjudication I believe currently for a charge of deadly conduct. That originally came in as an aggravated assault charge. I've looked at the terms of your deferred adjudication, and the terms of that deferred adjudication include commit no new offenses, you are not to use or consume any illegal drugs or alcohol for that matter, and you may not possess a firearm. The allegations in this case from the reporting officers are that you were found driving a vehicle on the freeway with 2 blown out tires. There is certainly the allegation that you are intoxicated at the time. They noted slurred speech, bloodshot eyes, not a great performance on the field sobriety tests, as well as the odor of marijuana coming from the vehicle, as well as a quantity of marijuana recovered from a backpack in the vehicle. Technically, that's not even, how much was it?
Sorry to interrupt, Your Honor. I found the report. It said 3.63 grams of marijuana. 3.63
grams, thank you. And that's really not even the most concerning part. The most concerning part is that you've got 2 firearms in the vehicle, one a Smith & Wesson AR, and the other a Smith & Wesson 40 caliber pistol with 4 magazines for the AR, 2 magazines for the 40. So this to me suggests certainly more than something that you're carrying for self-defense, which even if you were, you're still not supposed to be doing that, because you are under conditions on that deferred adjudication of no firearms, period. I will note that the 40 caliber pistol was found under the driver's seat. So putting this all together, let me also note that you did have a prior motion to revoke or motion to adjudicate your deferred adjudication. In other words, revoke your probation. And that was filed in the deadly conduct case, I believe, sometime last winter or last fall. The motion to adjudicate was filed in November. You were given a personal bond. You were arrested on that at some point, but then you were given a personal bond with conditions. And the allegations in the motion to adjudicate essentially were drug use, that you were testing dirty on your drug tests. But at some point, the judge in the 248th, Judge Unger, cut you loose on that. I see that the motion to adjudicate was dismissed. So, and that was just back in December. That was like 2 months ago. And now, you've been rearrested with the allegation of guns, plural, and additional marijuana. So these are my concerns. You're not obeying the court's conditions on your deferred adjudication. You're not obeying Judge Unger in district court. I don't have any confidence that you're going to obey any non-financial bond conditions that I give you. Also, the fact that you are on deferred for deadly conduct, and I would note that it came in as an aggravated assault, but it's a deadly conduct conviction, which still means discharging a firearm or pointing a firearm in the direction of another person, a building, an occupied vehicle. And then you've got these 2 loaded weapons in your car. Gives me a great deal of concern for the safety of the public. On top of all that, there is also the DWI allegation, which, again, raises public safety concerns because other people drive here in Harris County, and they have to look out for you if you are driving in an intoxicated state. That puts other drivers at danger. I'm going to set bond in your unlawful carry of a weapon charge, or firearm in a motor vehicle. I'm going to set that bond in the amount of $15,000. I'll set bond on the DWI case in the amount of $5,000. I'm declining the personal bonds for those reasons. Public safety concerns, and it does not appear, certainly everything that's here in front of me today would suggest that you are disregarding orders from the court that are designed to help enhance and assure public safety. And you are not abiding by those rules set down for you by Judge Unger. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I wouldn't, if it's about, keep in mind everything's recorded and will be used as evidence against you. Maybe stray away from that right now. That might not be a good idea. Just,
Yeah, I'm looking at your case right now. I don't see anything indicating that your probation period has expired. I do know it was a 2-year term. It looks like February the 27th, 2018 was the day that you went on probation. No, that's when it was filed, excuse me. Let's see, hold on.
I would just say keep in mind to have this conversation in an incredibly measured way, if that makes sense.
I mean, at some point, your probation must have been extended, because if you went on deferred for 2 years in February of 2018, it should have been over in February of 2020. But because a motion was filed in, this November, it was a year ago, 2019. But I still show you as being on deferred. Mr. Henderson, do you have any additional information on that?
Spare me 1 second, Judge.
Sure.
I don't seem to personally have any more information than what's on the district clerk side.
Yeah.
No notes from my colleague about anything like that.
That's probably a good idea.
I did get a call, and I tried to request for early termination on the probation. My original,
Okay, hold on, Mr. Perez. Just relax. I don't see anything in here about early termination. That's what I'm trying to tell you, all right? I don't see any motions filed for early termination. I don't see any orders from Judge Unger that you were early terminated. All right, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to set bonds in each of these cases in the amount of $5,000, but I'm still declining the personal bond, because whether you are or are not on deferred adjudication, I still have concerns about the number of weapons that are alleged to have been found in your vehicle after you've already come off, whether you're on it or not. If you're off the deferred on the deadly conduct, or whether you're still on it, I still have the same concerns about public safety, as well as the fact that you've got illegal contraband and guns in the same vehicle. Are you a U.S. citizen? Are you a United States citizen, Mr. Perez?
yes, sir.
All right. I'm also going to issue a separate order that if you do make these bonds, you may not use or possess any firearms or other weapons. You may not use or possess any illegal drugs. You may not use, possess, or consume any alcohol, and I will have you drug tested.
I'm sorry, sir. I couldn't hear you at the very beginning.
No drugs, no alcohol, no guns, no weapons. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Perez, please step over and see the deputies. They'll tell you what to do next. Good luck. Floyd Wallace? Good morning, Mr. Wallace. How you doing? Good. All right. So, Mr. Bear, I brought Mr. Wallace to court because on my review of the DIMS, the probable cause statement where he is supposedly hanging around a police tower in Tomball, I don't see any other reason why the officer expresses for the stop. Is there anything reflected in the OR that is worthy of being passed for follow-up?
Your Honor, what it says is, and I can follow up with the officer and get additional information, but once the officer activated his emergency equipment and the defendant made eye contact with the officer and saw that, he continued to run and evade from the officer.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bear. Mr. Wallace, at this time, I'm going to find that there is not sufficient probable cause for this charge against you to go forward. So if you don't have anything else holding you, you should be discharged. Step on over, see the deputies. They'll tell you what to do, all right? Good luck to you, sir. Let's take care of the missing gentleman.